Welcome back to Read Your Comics. I'm continuing to look at Knightfall. If you missed the first couple parts of this series, I'm covering the Knightfall storyline from 1993. I read it over the summer of 2023 with my kids to kind of revisit it and to let them have a real-time reading experience. We read it approximately one book a week from about May through August, but I wanted them to have essentially the same feeling I had reading it as it came out back in the day when I was a kid. Anyway, so there's just a lot of parts to this, so I've had to break it up into multiple videos, and here we are on the third part. This is part of my series of top comics of 1993. Most of these were in the top 300 sellers, but believe it or not, the Superman story outsold this one by quite a bit. All right, so last time we left off, Batman was chasing the Joker and Scarecrow into a tunnel, and they had shot a rocket launcher which started making water flood into the tunnel. Batman was there to save the mayor, who the Joker and Scarecrow had been tormenting for the past few chapters of this arc. We're on a Detective Comics issue, so that means we are back to Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan on art duties. So here's our water flooding. Pretty much this whole issue is just Batman trying to fight through this flood. And, he's been going through a lot so far. He's taken out the Mad Hatter, he's Firefly, some other low-level villains, all after the Arkham Asylum breakout. Graham Nolan doing another good job here. I think it was Jim Ballant that did the Killer Croc issue. That's another kind of similar pose as the one that we saw with Killer Croc. So Batman's taking his cape off, and I think he did it as a thing for the mayor to hold on to, or maybe he tied the mayor up while he goes and searches for an exit. And he finds one, but he's going to need the mayor to come down with him. So I think he sprays him with this gas to kind of make him pass out enough to calm down, and puts his cape over him, for some reason, and swims with him, dives down, goes underneath. This is all a pretty claustrophobic issue. I mean, the dialogue or the narration box is pretty much just Batman explaining the struggle of trying to do this while carrying a dead weight of somebody, and finds this, trap opening to get out. And of course he's going to get out. He's going to save the mayor, right? If you're like me and you do have an unhealthy fear of drowning, this is a pretty intense issue, really. And even though I'm kind of going through it kind of quick, this was one of the better chapters, I would say, of the entire storyline. So Batman saves the mayor. He's pretty worn out, as he has been the whole series. When this storyline started, Batman was sick too. You have to kind of keep that in mind too, as we get close to the big Bane confrontation. Not only did Bane release all the prisoners of Arkham Asylum to wear Batman down before he finally confronts him, but he also was already sick. He was getting over something like the flu or something. So they're observing him, and just for the final gauntlet, essentially, is what they're going to run him through. So Batman comes out of the tunnel, the flooded tunnel, saves the mayor, and he's kind of just trying to head back to get back home. I mean, he knows he needs to rest. And now we have Bane's henchmen. We have Zombie, Trog, and Bird. And they're going to take him on one at a time. Ongoing subplot has been the ventriloquist, who's been looking for Scarface. Other than Batman confronted him really early on in the story, and he was with Amy Gadala, who's kind of not as strong as the Hulk, but a hulking figure that Batman had to take out, and that wore him out, so the ventriloquist got away. And he's been having these other dummies along the way helping him get to Scarface. So he's finally found Scarface in a storage locker at a police precinct. I mean, these are good shots. Graham Nolan's pretty good. Pretty solid here. Kind of weird right here. you've got Batman kind of taking a rest. It's not the clearest shot. Like I've looked at this a few times now, and every time I forget that Trog is there. Could have probably done it better. It's a good shot of Batman, but the Trog needed to be a little bit more clear because he's watching the bird go by, distracted. So Trog rips him up, and so he starts going through the fight with Trog. Good shot here. I like the use of his like stunned lines, I guess you'd call them. But of course, you know, he's still Batman. He may be worn out, but these guys aren't tough enough. They're tough, but not tough enough to take out Batman. So he pretty much takes Trog out, and then all of a sudden he's, you know, kind of trying to like catch his breath again, and all of a sudden, shunk. See a knife, and we see Zombie. Zombie so far has mostly just been like a mechanic of sorts. He's, you know, been fixing the Venom injector and making devices and plans and stuff like schematics with Bane. But here we're going to see he's also like, you know, a master of knives, I suppose. That's a nice shot too, where you see looks like Batman coming down on top of him. Good use of line works. You got the light behind him, but the burst coming out this way, but like the motion lines of the bat cape itself. So, you know, all along, if you watch the other videos, I've said that it was pretty much known that this was going to happen early on in the storyline. I don't know why they let that be known. I mean, I guess it was like the death of Superman. It's like once that storyline started, you knew how it was going to end. So maybe this was kind of the same concept, as they were just like, well, we'll just tell people at the end of the story, or by the end of the story, Batman's getting his back broken. And it got me to hop on. I wasn't a regular Batman reader at the time. So it wasn't Batman after all. He had just thrown his cape and cowl to distract him, and he came up from behind and just pulled his legs out from under him. Whap! Face into the concrete. So that's what I'm saying. He may be pretty good with knives, take out a normal person, but even a weakened, depleted Batman, you know, he's no match for that. Batman didn't even need prep time. He's had no prep time for any of this stuff. And now we get Bird. And Bird's the one we've kind of seen the most of through the whole storyline. We've gotten more Bird than we have Jean-Paul Valley, which has been one of my biggest critiques of the series so far, as Jean-Paul barely being in it and not really establishing him as a character that's going to have the importance he's going to have here in just a couple issues. So Bird puts up probably the best fight, but he still goes down. So the 3 Bane henchmen are now done, and Batman heads home for a much needed rest. And, you know, Alfred usually has some hot food waiting for him when he gets home, but this time Alfred's laying on the floor. I left him alive. It is not your underlings I want. The voice. It is you. So now we're left with the big cliffhanger. It's him. It's Bane. He's pumped up on Venom. You can see like his veins bulging in his pecs right here. And that's the big cliffhanger of this issue. Like earlier on, I said every issue either ended in some kind of cliffhanger. Twice we had a flood. Once it was with Robin. Once it was with Batman. But other than that, most of the time the cliffhangers were just Batman worn out, sitting on a rooftop, totally exhausted. So this is the big climactic moment of the storyline, I guess. The breaking of Batman. And it had this weird, at least the direct edition did. I don't know if the newsstand edition had the little flap on it. I feel like it did not, but maybe it did. I feel like this is the weirdest like gimmick. It kind of gets your attention, but I don't know. They did it once before with a Funeral for a Friend issue, and then you would think that this one would have been like something a little more thoughtful than just like, put one of those little half wraps around it. Pretty iconic cover, though. And we pick right back up. Jim Aparo back on artist Doug Munch on writing duties. And this issue, if you just picked up this book this issue does, I guess, a decent job of kind of catching you up to speed of what's been going on with Batman. But if you compared this to, like, say, the big climax of the death of Superman with Doomsday, the fight here isn't much of a fight. I mean, Bane's plan has worked to perfection. He has worn Batman out. So first they have some dialogue as to, like, why are you even doing this? And he's just basically, because I want to, and, you need to put your suit on because I'm not here to fight Bruce Wayne. I'm here to take out the Bat. And they also have a discussion about Venom. Now, there's a storyline where Batman experiments with the Venom steroid, more or less is what it is. And I don't think I ever read it. Because he does talk, he's like, it's Venom, and he's like, I know it all too well. And maybe that's what he was sick from, is getting over the Venom stuff. So there's quite a bit of build-up to this moment. Whereas, like, the death of Superman, it's like Doomsday comes out of the ground, kind of interrupting the other storylines that were going on at the time in Superman, and then just, takes over, which is cool in, like, a chaotic moment. But I guess if you've been reading Batman for about a year before this, there were things like the Venom storyline, the Vengeance of Bane, the Azrael story, Sean Paul being in issues leading up to this, and it all culminates to this moment. So, and I don't know if they had it planned, like, way back then, if they were just doing stories and they were like, you know what, we can wrap this up with a character and do what we did with Superman. But I always took it as, like, the death of Superman was such a hit, such a big mega news story, got attention for everything, that they were like, we need to do that to Batman too. And then they decided to, move forward with this Knightfall, because it did come about 6 months later. But they found a way to weave it in with what they were already doing. So Bane essentially just starts to trounce Batman. And as he does, you start getting little flashbacks of everything that's built up to this moment. Even, like, prior to the Knightfall issues, the things that are happening. I mean, that's pretty good. He's got him by the neck and pulling him backwards. Throwing him into, what is that, the clock that he comes up from behind the Batcave. More flashbacks. They go down to the Batcave. I mean, when they're not doing a flashback or Alfred, trying to figure out what to do, Bane is just, clobbering him. Trump. That needed a sound effect of whack. So here's a Riddler story. We haven't even really seen Batman take on the Riddler. That's a beefy looking Riddler right there compared to what we saw a couple issues ago. And I've been pretty critical of Aparo in this storyline. This is okay. At least Bane's mask has more depth to it than earlier. It just looked like really flat. It's like he's finally figured out kind of how to draw the mask, this far in. There's the Arkham breakout. They always give Aparo a chance to draw a Joker. Comp. Is that how it goes? Knump. 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 A disappointment. You are nothing. A disappointment. Well, you did wear him out. That was your plan. I mean, how much fight did you think he was going to have in him after all that? And then it goes through the what he's done so far in Knightfall. Again. Meanwhile, the phone's ringing. It's this Dr. Chandra, who we've only really encountered. I think there's been 2 issues. He went to dinner with her at that gala with Poison Ivy was there, and talked to her on the phone one other time. So that's about as much as she's been established thus far. I think the giant penny falls on the back of Batman's legs. Wouldn't that just, like, completely destroy his legs? I mean, it almost looks like they're hitting him, like, right at the back of the knees. There's the Amy Gadala. And then he rips Batman out from under the penny and whaps his head into the side of a Batmobile. Gosh, this almost looks like the Batmobile from the most recent Batman movie. It's not the one he's been driving in this storyline. The Zsasz flashback. Bane karate chopping off a stalactite or stalagmite, whichever one it is. So, I mean, like I said, if you had not picked up any of this storyline and just picked up this issue, at least they're giving you these little flashbacks to see what's led to this moment and why Batman is so weakened and depleted and barely trying to fight back. There he kind of dodged once. I guess he hit the thing out of his hand. So that was like kind of one of his last gasps. Bane charges him into Jason Todd's little memorial over there. And, you know, he already went bonkers on the Joker in just the previous issue about Jason. Alfred escapes and goes next door to Tim. Tim Drake lives right next door. I've always thought that was kind of funny. It's like when you see Wayne Manor, it's usually like way up on a hill, like completely by itself on like hundreds of acres of land by itself. But somehow Tim Drake's house is just in, you know, walking distance and maybe even closer, as we'll see in another issue or two, like just around the corner almost, like they live in a cul-de-sac. So he goes to get Tim. By the time they get back, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, you just see like the weakness in that punch and what he's trying to do. Like the little shaky lines around the side of him. Hold up. Even around his fist, there's like, you know, shaky lines. Like he can't even keep his fist moving straight. Bane just slapping him away. His costume should already have been a little ripped up. I don't know what's going on there. What that flashback was. It says, I gave my all long ago. That must be from like just earlier when he was already worn out. And there it shows him rescuing the mayor, which was just in the chapter right before this. We're building up to the big final moment. Kind of a chintzy cop out here. This is like old school. This could be like the Batman TV show, this background. This is pretty well drawn, though. Just the background I thought was a little campy. And he hoists him up. Break you. Cracked. What do you like better? You like this image better or this image better? The only thing I like, I've come to love these Kelly Jones covers, but the only thing that's bugged me on this cover is where the knee and the body like blend into each other. So he basically just throws Batman down, but that's it. That's Batman's been broken. But it's really not, he's not even done with him yet. This is the iconic issue that most people like when they're like, oh, I'm just a key collector. They usually just get that one. And, you know, because it does kind of tell the whole story in the one issue, it's almost like a jumping on point in the middle of this 19-part storyline. It's not really the best chapter of the book, I don't think. I think there's more. The build up to it is a little better, if not a little prolonged. So Bane isn't really done with Batman. We, immediately follow up. Bane looming over this. This is a pretty awesome Kelly Jones one. Now his head does look a little funky shaped there, but just the looming over Batman. We're back to Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan. So now Bane has taken this. He's already broken his back and probably other bones. This is where it gets just like completely bonkers, okay? He takes him out to what is essentially like, I guess, Times Square of Gotham City. To the top of this building. All these people are down here just walking around. All the criminals of Gotham got out, but like things kept moving along in Gotham. They were having galas and people were just out doing their regular stuff. And he's up there shouting like, Batman is no more. I have destroyed him. I rule these streets. I rule Gotham. You got to do that Tom Hardy voice, right? When you do Bane. Here is your hero, your protector. Take him and bury him. And he throws Batman off the top of the building. I'm going to have the Bob Kane. Throws Batman off the building, hits one roof, and bounces off the roof like a rubber ball. Comes down, hits another awning, comes down farther, hits the top of, I guess that's another awning. I thought it was a bus for a second. And then finally hits the ground. So here's this guy already busted up and broken. And Bane throws him off a roof. And that page is pretty gross. My kids did not love some of this violence in this book. I mean, you got like ribs protruding right here. His fingers are all twisted and contorted. Looks like his leg is twisted around. Oh, there's a leg going like up behind him. It looks like his hip is dislocated. I mean, people looking away. Little kids. What time of night is this happening? You got this guy smirking like, good, the Batman's done. That means I'm going to go out and steal me a television. So the rest of this is basically Montoya comes up. Got that good magenta for the police lights again, or ambulance lights. And they're calling a paramedic to come get him. And this paramedic that shows up is very familiar looking. And of course, it's Alfred and Robin in their own ambulance. Because, you know, they got to have that handy, ready to go for whenever this type of situation arises. They take him and just, at this point, it's like, there's a lot of like, we need to stabilize him. Pretty good shot of Gordon right there. Graham Nolan does a really good job setting some moodiness. Now we get the Joker and Scarecrow again. Remember, they escaped from the tunnel before. They were already starting to have a little bit of disagreement on what they should do. You know, the Joker just wanted to cause chaos. He wanted to use... First, he wanted to use Gordon, but that kind of fell through. And then they got the mayor, and they wanted to use him just to like send the police on wild goose chases and, you know, have him order the National Guard away. And, you know, he just wanted to cause chaos. But Scarecrow was on board with that for a minute. But then he's like, what's our end game here? What are we moving towards? He's like, are we getting some money? Like, what, you know, I want more to do than just, you know, get some police killed and stuff. So they basically end up having a falling out. And mostly Apparo's been doing the Joker issues, but Graham Nolan does a pretty good Joker here too, where it's pretty good maniacal laughing through his hands and then boo. And then Joker's pretty much done with Scarecrow too. Scarecrow's done with Joker, Joker's done with Scarecrow, but Joker takes advantage of it first, beats him with a chair, leaves him for dead, and he's like, see you later. Then we're just going to stabilize Batman or Bruce Wayne. So they got his leg in a splint, but they need some kind of medicine that'll like help him get through the night. And they've got to go to Gordon. So now we get Jean-Paul. Jean-Paul was in the ambulance, and now Jean-Paul's in his ninja suit, and he's going with Robin to talk to Gordon to get some medicine to like stabilize him. Oh, and the ventriloquist story wraps up right here. This was pretty funny. I mean, we've been following the ventriloquist for 12 parts now. Well, I don't know. I guess he came in about the third part or so. He finally got Scarface back, and he's holed up in some like little rat hole, I guess, like, you know, by the hour hotel or something. I mean, it's dingy. And his sock puppet that's been with him through the storyline is arguing with Scarface. And these two are having their moment, kind of like the Joker and Scarecrow were. And it gets to the point where the two, the puppets, Scarface and the sock puppet, pull guns on each other. And this dude that's like peering in, because I guess he overheard talking, just wanted to know what was going on. He's like, no, boys, no. Blam, 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 blam. I don't know if he completely killed himself or just shot his hands, is just laying there losing blood. And that's the end of the ventriloquist story that we've been following. So other than Batman encountering him at the toy store with Amy Gadala in like the second part, second or third chapter, that's the end of the ventriloquist storyline. Batman convinces Gordon to put in a call to the hospital to get the medicine that he needs. Montoya and Bullock oblige. Why is he in that crazy pose right there? Just to look cool. Anyway, so they do it. They get the medicine. They head back to the cave. They administer the medicine. And now, the hardest part, the waiting. Now the storyline detours. We actually go into these showcase issues with a pretty cool Sienkiewicz cover here and a Glenn Fabry cover here. And these are flashback stories of Two-Face. I'm going to go through them pretty quick. It's essentially like this is something that happened in the earlier chapters that we didn't see for some reason. And it's a Two-Face story, kind of rehashes his origin. And he wants to get Batman because, he thinks Batman betrayed Harvey Dent. And you got Klaus Janson on pencils here. I think he pencils, maybe he inks himself too. So it's a very rough style. Some good stuff. I prefer Klaus Janson as a inker. Sometimes when he is the penciler, you get weird stuff like this. And it works for, depending on the story, that works fine. His layouts are good. So I'm just kind of flipping through it fast because it's just a basic Batman tracking down Two-Face story. Bane's not even in it. He ends up in the river and these guys are coming to fish him out. And then there's some other stories in this too, but we're not going to cover those. If you want to see what they are, you got a Jade and Obsidian story and a Deathstroke and Peacemaker, who's now popular. It's part 14. These shouldn't even have been numbered, in my opinion. While they're waiting for Batman to wake up, these guys fish him out of the river. I mean, I don't know. I guess the Klaus art works a little better. The more I look at it, the more I like it. It's so rough the way he draws that I don't know how to describe it. I like Klaus better as an inker. So they go to an old courthouse it's been torn down and there's a new one being built, but I guess this is where the new one's being built. I can't remember exactly, but they're outside where a courthouse is. Either the old courthouse is being torn down or the new one is being built. But it's where Harvey Dent, turned into Two-Face in the court when they threw the battery acid in his face. He's putting Batman on trial. He's got a bunch of other local crime bosses as the jury and as there's a judge there too. And he's running through like a trial or a prosecution because Harvey's the DA, the prosecutor. That's a pretty good Batman shot. His face. I like Batman shot. If you're watching these videos, you probably notice a lot of times I point out when there's a cool Batman face. So Robin and Alfred are in the Batmobile. Like, where's Jean-Paul? Why not use Jean-Paul in this? Why not? They do a terrible job of building up Jean-Paul. Anyway, so he gets to the part where he's going to execute Batman. Of course, Batman's able to throw himself back and break the chair. He could have done it at any time, but he was trying to talk. He was trying to talk Harvey down. Remember when we saw Robin use his R on his chest to cut the rope? Well, now we get to see him. He throws it like a shuriken into Two-Face's hand. And then the jury guys get up. Of course, they weren't really a jury, obviously. And here comes Robin. He came in like a wrecking ball. So Robin comes in and helps save the day. And a lot of the storyline throughout this Knightfall story is Batman always trying to sideline Robin. And that's been a big point of contention between the two. It's like Robin just wants to help. He's, he knows Bruce is worn out and exhausted and needs the help, but he won't let Tim help him. And that's kind of the point of this Two-Face story. They do have a disagreement here. by the end. I think it's like, yeah, I think it's here that Two-Face has Batman on this girder and he's stomping on his feet, and Robin makes the decision to stop Two-Face so that Batman doesn't get killed. And in doing so, he knocks Two-Face off. So Batman lets go to grab Two-Face, and then of course shoot a line and save them both. And he's mad at Robin for essentially trying to sacrifice Two-Face to save him. And he's like, I couldn't stand there and watch you do nothing. He's like, there was no way you could know I'd catch him, and no way I could know you still had your grapple. So I made a life and death judgment, all right? Yes, you did, just like Two-Face himself, and we never take our cues from the likes of him. So he's trying to make a point with Robin. Kind of silly. I think Robin was in the right. I mean, you want to save the good guy. If the bad guy dies, you try to save the bad guy, but if you can't save the bad guy but save the good guy, what are you going to do? Anyway, so that was the end of the story. And as they wake up, or if he finally starts to wake up from his, medicine they gave him to stabilize him, he's like, Robin, about Two-Face, you did right. And it wasn't bad judgment. Not at all. So it kind of gives Robin a little redemption of that moment. All right. And then, again, we got the extra stories for the showcase. 93. Which I did not read these again. I don't know if I read them back in the day, but I definitely didn't read them on this read through. And that is the end of this part. I'll come back tomorrow with one final chapter of the last 5 parts, including the number 6 seller of 1993, Batman 500. Until then, read your comics. Until then, read your comics.